Hey everyone, thank you for joining the first episode of the Deguess Podcast. Today my guest is going to be Tracy, also known as Eunoia, and the song that you just heard before the introduction to this podcast is his song called Leave Me Behind, which is going to be coming off of his newest EP. I just want to be able to get to know a little bit about what it is that you do. So just talk about how long you've been producing music for and what got you started, really.
Thanks for having me on. I started producing actually electronic music about a year ago. Actually, it'll be a year in like a week.
That's crazy.
But I've been making music and playing guitar since I was like 11. So been doing it for about 14 years now. So decided to get into electronic music, and so far it's going so pretty good.
Cool. Who have you been listening to, I guess, in the electronic scene that made you want to get into producing more stuff?
Definitely everybody's favorite, Blackmail. Yeah, he was a big inspiration for me, and CMA as well. I started listening to them, and I dug a little bit further into it and actually come across people like Sephiros and stuff, and become friends with a few of these artists after I started producing and whatnot. It's been pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember when I first got into listening to this genre too. Blackmail was really the first guy that I'd listened to. This is like back in 2012, though. When did you discover them, though? When did you discover this entire scene?
I discovered Chill Step probably in 2013 early, and even at that point, I wasn't aware of that Chill Step was becoming big. I mean, if I did, I would have started producing earlier, but I heard him on heard Blackmail through Pandora one day, and I was like, man, this is good. And I had to figure out who it was, and finally I figured it out. And then from there, it just went further into the genre, and I loved it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Do you have any? Okay, aside from Blackmail, CMA, I know you mentioned Sephiros. Do you have any other people that you looked up to? I know that you actually were able to get a collab with Killigrew, which I really liked, by the way. I think that was actually one of your best tracks that you've produced up to date. But who else are you looking up to, or are you, I guess, taking cues from in your production?
As of right now, I'm actually looking up to DM Galaxy and Myro. Their influences. They're not really chill step, but they're in a chill genre, and I'm kind of being influenced off of them and bringing their vibe into my music as well. But yeah, Killigrew, like you said, Sephiros, Foxtails, just all kinds of different people.
All right, cool. As far as like your creative process goes, how do you go about writing your material? Do you start on guitar? Like, there's 101 different ways, or like 1,000,001 different ways to start your creative process. How do you go about it?
Usually I just start with some simple piano chords. I just sit and play and improv some until I find a little small chord progression I like, and I lay that down. And from there, then everything I do is played live, actually. A lot of people know their theory and they click it in or whatnot. Me, I just play, and whatever sounds good, I lay down. And usually for me, it just starts piano chords, and then I layer in a melody, and from there, duplicate melodies, and I throw a simple drum beat on as my metronome. And then from there, I just adjust my drum beat and then mix everything in with the bass and more melodies, different instruments, and stuff like that.
Yeah. When you're writing stuff, right? Because I know that you're a guitar player. How often do you actually, I guess, rely on like a guitar for a melody?
Actually, I do it a lot. My song Promises, I actually wrote on the guitar, like the entire song prior to making
that's crazy,
the song.
yeah.
But then I interpret it into a piano and electronic track. Usually, guitar, I kind of do in a way. Here recently, though, I started doing it a lot more. In fact, guitar comes in play in almost every song that's recent that's not released yet. So I have some unreleased stuff that's coming up.
Okay. Speaking of unreleased stuff, I know that you have an EP that's coming up. When is that coming out, and how many songs are you gonna have on that?
It's gonna be an EP of 3 songs, and it'll actually be out within this week, actually. So it's getting ready to drop. I had a preview teaser on Mixhound, and so
Yeah, I
people
remember
could
you were
hear,
releasing that. Yeah.
yeah, people could hear kind of how the vibe of the EP is going to be. But yeah, it'll be out this week. Hope people enjoy it.
That's cool. I want to talk about also the curve of your production, or like the improvement that you've had over the course of even the past few months. Because I remember when I first heard of you, or when I first heard your material, it was when you did that song with my friend Kate with Irreplaceable, and it's gotten a lot better since that was around February. What are you doing to make your music better? Is it because I think from what I hear, a lot of it has to do just simply with the engineering and the mixing. I think you got the sound design right, but how much time do you spend on improving your mixes? If I'm assuming that that's where it's how you're getting better.
Constantly. I sit down. I make sure when I sit down that I actually sit down and work on music or work on mixing in long sessions. I don't sit down for an hour and play with it. If I'm sitting down, I'm sitting down for 8 hours. And then, I've actually just YouTube videos and talking with other artists and getting ideas of how they mix and how things should be mixed. Typically, it's just getting ideas from other people, but then I incorporate it into my music. People suggest different plugins, stuff like that, and I'll use those and figure it out. I actually sit behind my computer a lot more than people would imagine. It's kind of on my only hobby.
Is it kind of unhealthy?
Yeah, very.
No, I know it's because I still kind of do that too. It hurts sometimes to not get up, but you enjoy it so much that you forget that you need to eat sometimes. So I understand. I want to know how much you enjoy the mixing process, because I know it's a part of the creative process, but at the same time, it's still entirely different from the writing material, like the composition and the production. How much do you actually enjoy the mixing process? I know some people who absolutely hate it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not fun. But I don't know how other people do it, because I haven't actually watched other people produce or even asked exactly how they do it. But I mix as I go. Like if I lay a piano, I'm going to make that piano sound good. Then I'm going to add a melody, and then I'm going to blend those two together. And then I add one after the other, and I mix it in as I go. And then obviously after that, then I'll do an overall mix down where I group my tracks and then compress them. And then I'll throw in a general master and then go back and mix again. And it's kind of crazy, actually.
I believe it, but it sounds like you have. It really sounds like you have a good idea. I mean, you can clearly tell that mixing is it's a difficult job, but it sounds like you at least have a pretty good idea of what you want. You can always just tell by listening to the record if someone's tracks are mixed, and I think your earlier stuff has kind of been missing a little bit of that, but as time has gone on, I can hear that it's gotten definitely a lot better. Do you have any favorite plugins for mixing?
Yeah, definitely. Mixing, usually I just use, I have a plugin called Neutron 2, and it's kind of just got a self-generated type thing. It's like a compilation of different plugins in one, and from there I just tweak it. It's got some EQ, some compression in there, some transients and stuff like that, wideners, like stereo wideners, and I just go in there and tweak that. And then I usually use some OTT compression and some glue compression, Cytomic's the glue, stuff like that. That's really about all I use mixing-wise. And obviously I'm penning, in order to create space, I'm penning my instruments from one ear to the other, or just bringing in some space. That's for the mixing. For the mastering, I use Ozone 8, which is the same idea as Neutron 2. but it's meant for mastering instead of mixing. Then some more OTT. Compression is key. I mean, producers will tell you compression is key.
Oh, we love compression, man. We compress the hell out of everything. So, but those are some really solid. Those are some solid plugin choices. Especially, I'm a huge fan of the isotope, neutron and ozone stuff. I kind of nerd out over some of these plugins, so it's cool to know that you have you have some good plugins in your hands. It's not really a subject that a lot of people enjoy, but I love talking about plugins. We could talk about plugins for a long time, but let's move on to your choice of sounds, like your production plugins. I'm assuming that you like to use Nexus quite a bit, but what other instrument plugins do you have under your belt?
Okay, so yeah, I use Nexus for some melodies or stuff. I'm actually not incorporating Nexus as much anymore. I do for my melodic dubstep, but here recently I've been digging into more chill type stuff, and I've not been using Nexus as much. But for me, I use Contact 5 piano Alicia Keys. To me, that sounds great, especially if you layer on some Bahala vintage verbs, stuff like that. Sounds
beautiful,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use Omnisphere too for like my pads and some crazy sounding arps and stuff. I mean, you can get some pretty crazy noises out of Omnisphere too. It is the power synth.
Oh yeah, no, that Omnisphere too. I've never gotten to use. I mean, I've seen people use it. I've never personally gotten to use. It's kind of a hole in your wallet, but there's a lot that you can do with Omnisphere. Anything from Spectrasonics. I don't know if you've ever heard of Keyscape. That's their piano plugin. It's 10 times better than Alicia's Keys, but I mean, it's another $400. They also have another one like Trillion and their drum plugin Stylus RMX. So Spectrasonics is a great company with great plugins, and even though that it's $400 for each one, it's still heavily underpriced. Omnisphere is everywhere. Everybody knows about that plugin. Anything else that you use?
Yeah, I use Massive. I use Massive solely for bass. Like everything that I get my bass, everywhere I get my bass from is straight from Massive. So I recommend that for bass. And I don't really use it for much else besides bass. I may use it for like a bell type sound, but really Massive is my go-to bass. And then a lot of my stuff is very piano-y. I mean, that's not a correct word, but it's got everything revolves around the piano melodies, piano chords, just stuff like that. And then I'll throw in, depending on how crazy I'm feeling, I'll probably throw in like Silent One and throw some weird affected arpeggios or something that Omnisphere don't have. I mean, people would think that my plugin list goes on forever, but really I've probably 10 plugins and that's got them all.
That's cool. I mean, honestly, with the way that plugins are nowadays, you don't need that much. Like, I think to be realistic, my go-to plugins, I think for instruments, I only have 3. So, which is not a lot, but with the kinds of things that you can do with plugins nowadays, you don't need more than your 5 go-tos. So that's really cool. I want to talk about what was your experience like, I guess, collaborating with Killigrew? Because I've been following the guy for years, and he rarely collaborates with anybody, but he gave you a shot. How was that?
Yeah, actually, it's pretty good. Killigrew, man, he's easy to work with. In fact, when he brought his ideas to the track was something that was fairly pre-made by me. It was lacking melodies and some stuff, lacking some mixing or whatnot. But he come to me and he said, "Hey, do you got anything you would like for me to add a melody to or something?" I threw him the idea, and literally, instantly, it seemed like he had a melody instantly. And he sent it back, and I put it in the track and sent him rough copies, and he was like, "Yeah, we need to tweak this. We need to tweak this. We need to tweak this." And then eventually we got it down. But yeah, it was a quick song. I had it pre-laid, and then I sent it to him, and he threw me melodies. I mean, quick. So it was a joy to work with him. In fact, hopefully I'll get to work with him sometime soon again.
It was the he contributed. I believe it was like the flute pad, right? That's what he did.
Anything that had to do with a melody. So it was the flute pad at the beginning. It was the synth type thing in the verses, and then he added like some kind of, I don't know exactly. It sounded like a twinkle piano to me. It's like twinkling stars in the background.
Right.
Yeah.
And also the saws. So basically, you did all the production on that track. He just threw in the melody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounded really cool. It sounded a little bit, not particularly exactly, but it did sound a lot like a Black Mill track from 2012. So I think that was a really cool piece of production that you made. Is probably one of the, as I mentioned earlier, is one of the best that you've made. What are your top 3, top 5 pieces of production that you're most proud of to date?
Actually, 3, if I'm gonna name 5, 3 of the 5 was actually on this unreleased EP.
Okay,
Awesome.
awesome.
I don't know what happened. I mean, it was just like magic. I sat down and started writing, and it seemed like I learned a lot of stuff without actually learning it. It was like everything come more. It was crazy. I don't know how to explain it. I just sat down, and it seems like it was super clean, and I was like, wow, what happened here? I don't know. But yeah, I'm proud of those. I'm really proud of the Killigrew remix. And then for a 5th track, one that I'm really proud of, probably Venture to the Sky. That was like a classic Black Mill type sounding track. In fact, it
Yeah, I remember that.
It made it onto an Arctic Empire mix, and I was like, man, this is amazing.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Man, you haven't, like, considering the amount of time that you have been producing, because a year's not a lot of time, but if you're always doing it, you can get pretty far. I remember when I was producing for about a year, maybe even 2 or 3. I wasn't even nearly at the point that you were, so I kind of envy the amount of time that you've been spending on your production. I want to talk about, I think this is going to be my last question for you, but I want to talk about where you see yourself producing going forward. It would be cool to revisit and have another podcast in the future after we see how you've evolved several months or a year down the road. But what do you see yourself producing going in maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years from now?
Oh, it's hard to say. Because inspiration comes every day. So it's kind of hard to say. Right now, I'm on more of like a chill type music binge. For future, I kind of want to dig more into future garage and maybe some more like, not really, I'm trying to think of the word. Not really like future bass sounding, but like a chill future bass. I mean, I need to learn how to make drops or whatnot, but I kind of want to dig in there. I mean, to be honest, I couldn't tell you. I'm wanting to stay chill. I'm not gonna go mainstream and start making EDM beats for everybody. I'm a chill person, so it's gonna stay chill for me. Probably just stay true to myself and be chill step melodic dubstep, man. To be honest.
That's true, man. It's like stick to your sound. A lot of people out there are chasing the sounds that are currently hot right now, and to be honest, like I'm pretty guilty of that too. But it's always sticking with what your personal sound is, and are you happy doing it? Do you enjoy it? And like honestly, that's the really the most important part. And I think you're gonna do great, man. I'm really looking forward to a lot of the work that I see in the future. For a year's time, it looks really promising to hear what you've come up with, man. So
Yeah, I appreciate that. Hopefully, year 2 will be a good year as well. Just hoping to go up from here. I mean, within a year's time, I'm starting to break into the chill step people are starting to recognize, and I'm actually proud of that, and I want to continue to move forward.
Yeah, dude. I'm looking forward to it. I really think that a lot of people are seeing what you've done in the scene, and obviously, it can only go up. So there's nothing that you're going to be putting out that's going to be like, oh, this guy's terrible. Like everything that you're putting out right now is quality. So you're only going to get better. So it's really awesome to see that.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to put out anything too bad.
All All right, Tracy, thank you so much for having this podcast with me. It was cool to actually get to do this. This is the first one, so thank you so much for being willing.
Oh, yeah, thanks for having me, man.
All right, cool. Take care of it.
Yep, see ya.
All right, see ya. Bye. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. It would mean a whole lot if you decided to leave a comment telling me what you thought. And if you want to hear anybody else on this podcast, let me know too, and I'll see if I can get in touch with them. Also, share this with anybody who you think would find this interesting. Again, thank you so much for coming by. It means a lot, and we'll talk to you in the next one.